Welcome back to Cigar Time, your ever so friendly show all about premium cigars. At this time, on this channel, every week. Welcome back.
Still ever so friendly.
Yeah, I got through that pretty good.
You did.
I did.
It's almost like you didn't do it last week.
You may notice a strange face on the panel.
Well, thanks a lot.
It's not me.
Not that strange.
Marianne's been here.
I wasn't talking about you.
I thought it was a rerun.
Yeah.
I thought we were taping a rerun.
Yeah, this is from 2014.
Yeah.
A leap to the future.
Ancient days.
We welcome back from the fields
Yeah.
Paul Magier, who formerly from Paul Magier City in Ecuador.
Nicaragua.
Excuse me, under the mountain. Paul now is the East Coast Regional Vice President Manager in charge of sales for Micallef Cigars.
Wow, that sounds good.
I
Yeah.
hope you get a raise.
And
I
Paul,
get
Is that,
10%.
Paul, is that on your business card?
All of that.
All of it, yeah.
There's no room for my phone number or anything.
As your agent, I get 10%. He's going to tell us an awful lot about this exciting brand that a lot of you think is new, but actually has been around for quite some time.
Yes, that is correct.
And they've sort of exploded on the scene in this part of the country in recent memory. So,
Well,
without further ado, I think we should light up.
yeah, please.
Yeah. He's about to have a heart attack.
That hasn't changed at all.
No.
Before you light that,
Uh-oh.
Paul, you still getting up in 1 o'clock in the morning smoking?
Every night.
Nice.
still drinking the wine? Or did you cut back on that?
Wine or bourbon.
An adult beverage.
So, before I say anything else, I want to say thank you for inviting me back.
Oh, you paid for it.
Well, but being on this show has been
Quite
an
a-
institution in my life,
Yeah.
and God knows I need to be.
Need to be in an
institution.
institution. Somehow I knew that was.
You knew that you stepped right on my line. But it's a pleasure to be back.
Oh, it's
I
good to
feel like
see
I'm
you.
home.
It's
you
nice
are
to be
home.
back.
It's always be your home
Yeah.
Well,
until you pay off the mortgage. You have no choice.
that's going to take a long time.
We'll keep you alive.
Okay.
It's like the old joke, you know. Doctor says, "I have good news and bad news for you." I said, "Well, what's the bad news?" "Well, you only have 6 months to live." "What's the good news?" He said, "If you don't pay me, you'll have a year to live."
You
What's the
no.
story?
That joke is so wrong. You are now banned like Mike in telling jokes.
No jokes
I
allowed.
deliberately did that so you'd all get a laugh out of it.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you have to tell it the wrong way to get some fun out of it.
Oh my God.
Anybody want to improve upon that? Never mind.
Not me.
So tell us what you've been up to.
Let me tell you what I've
Tell us
been
about
up
the
to.
cigar. Then what you've been up to.
Okay. The cigar is actually quite unusual. It's won a significant number of accolades lately. It's part of our line called Grande Bold, and it's the Grande Bold Ligero. And it's actually a double Ligero, but it's a double Ligero in a different way than most that you've ever tasted. It's not that it has more Ligero tobacco in it. It's got two different kinds.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a Dominican Ligero that's powerhouse, kind of La Florish in strength.
Right.
Sure Lito will appreciate that.
Well,
La Florish.
plug another company in the middle of it. Yeah. But it's also got a sweet Nicaraguan Ligero in it, and it's the balance between those two that really makes this cigar work. And most people don't realize that there is sweet Ligero and strong Ligero, depending on where it's grown and what breed of tobacco you're talking about. Sometimes Ligero can be very sweet, and sometimes it can be very not.
Yeah.
So we came at this from both sides. The wrapper is a Habano, and it's definitely full, but I think you'll find that it's less about the strength and more about sort of delivering on what's possible with Ligero, as opposed to just piling on the power.
Habano from where?
Ecuador.
Beautiful wrap.
I am getting a sweetness from it. I do get a sweet taste.
Some of us are smoking pretty big formats here.
Yeah, the cigar comes in 5 different sizes. I
That had
believe.
to burn.
No, not at all.
It's a cool smoking cigar.
The man of steel.
And so when you drop ash on yourself, it's still cool.
I won't burn my shirt.
It was.
Well, I
lit
didn't go
too.
that far.
Actually, it didn't. I didn't feel it. I thought I would. And ash dropped on me, in case so everyone knows what we're talking about here.
So let me tell you a little bit about Micallef.
Okay.
Hold on one second.
Some of that
Initial
palm-
impressions?
Well, that too, but what does the cigar retail
It's surprising. The range on this cigar between the Robusto and the big boys, it's about $7 to $10.
for? Oh,
That's not bad.
wow.
No, it's a
sweet spot.
reasonably priced line.
Yeah, it is very. Yeah. All right, let's get it before we get into the life story. Let's get our initial impressions. Who wants to start?
I will.
Okay.
Very sweet, actually. And I don't. However full strength it is, I'm not. I'm not. I can tell that it's going to be full, but you don't feel it. Like the
Yeah.
last couple of weeks, we felt the Ligero, the strong Ligero in the back of your throat. This is really good so far.
It stays smooth, even though it's got power. It's a cigar that stays smooth.
It is smooth, and I'm definitely getting that sweetness and almost like a milk chocolatey kind of flavor.
Marianne?
I'm getting some pepper this time. I'm definitely getting some spice, but it is very smooth, and I'm not retrohaling, but I am feeling it as a retrohale from everybody else's smoke. So, so you can definitely taste the pepper.
The fan's blowing this way. So.
Exactly.
Secondhand retrohale.
Secondhand retrohale. So I can definitely taste the pepper that way.
Rob?
I'm like I said, I'm definitely getting the sweetness from it. I retrohead a little bit because I don't want to
Sneeze.
I don't want to burn my olfactory senses out.
Ooh,
So,
big word.
Factory.
Yeah. So
Yeah, these are made
it's
in an
very
old factory.
in an old
Very
factory.
old.
So no, it's very. Everybody's right. It's very smooth, really smooth, and so far the smoke is very clean. And there's not a very big aftertaste right now.
As far as the cleanness of the flavor, there are 2 things about all of our cigars that help that along, because they all have that element to them. The flavors are very distinct and clean. We only use well-aged tobacco, and in this cigar, everything is at least 5 years old.
Nice.
But we also age the finished cigars for at least a year in the factory
Really?
before we import them.
That's
After
impressive.
after
A
they were-
year?
it
After
was
they're rolled,
made?
at least
Wow.
a year. So everything is married and settled down and smoothed out before it even gets into the
That's why it's so smooth. It's not rushed like after 3 months or something.
No,
Right.
and we will not change that. And in fact, the other part of that is, for a little company, we maintain a very substantial inventory in the United States.
I was just going to ask about that. If you're aging it for that long, you must have a nice stockpile of tobacco.
Yeah.
We have a stockpile of tobacco, and we keep 1.5 million cigars in the U.S. at all times. So we
You're ready to roll, yeah.
dig into that aged inventory down there to replenish our inventory up here. And the reason we do that is A, because it tastes better that way, but also one of the things we know about the more boutique-y companies is one of the great frustrations, and you'll appreciate this, is when you get some momentum behind a
Yeah.
boutique line and then you have to twiddle your thumbs for a few months
Yeah.
while they sort out of stock. And then you have to worry about whether it's going to be the same as it was last time.
Not always the boutiques that are like that.
Well, the big boys do it
That's
too.
true.
Well, that big boy's still kind of a boutique.
Well, for my initial impression, since you kind of skipped right over me, but I'm used to that around here. Don't worry about it. I'm feeling the intensity toward the front of the tongue and around the sides of the front of the tongue. It is very smooth, has definitely some oomph to it. I get the sweet notes. I'm getting a little peppery underneath the tongue in the front. That's where my olfactory.
Your olfactory.
Goes. But I expected this cigar to be a lot more in price.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be that reasonable, quite reasonable in price.
It's interesting. We're getting different. I wonder if it's because of the size of the cigar.
Well,
because we're getting different
yeah.
impressions. I'm getting like 0 pepper.
You're not getting any white pepper at all? It's definitely white
No, I'm
pepper.
getting
It's
a
not-
little-
I
it's
shouldn't say
not-
0,
it's
like
not
a
heavy
little
pepper.
tiny bit right on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I'm getting
not
in the front of the
like-
tongue. Yeah.
I wouldn't have, if you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have said peppery.
It's not the dominant,
No.
It is.
The
yeah,
sweetness is
It
really.
is white
but
pepper.
it draws
Yeah,
easy.
it's
Yes.
Got a lot of
it's
smoke.
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah. No.
I mean,
Well,
it's-
let me mention a thing about that too. As
Yeah.
far as the draw, we do use draw testing on every cigar. We don't do spot checks. We do 100% of the
Good.
cigars. But
that's
another thing,
very important. Don't underestimate that.
well,
draw testing each cigar.
for you especially, because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
always
I always
get a
get the
plugged
plugged
cigar,
cigar,
and I haven't
yeah.
given you a plugged one yet.
No, you haven't.
In fact, I drill out the insides before
Before you
I
get
just to make sure.
That's why I draw so easy.
He's got a Black & Decker in his car for just such
With a really long bit on it.
Yeah.
That's a
But
good idea.
the other thing is, and I'll explain more about this in a minute, but the family that started this company and still runs the factory, from both the founder to the living members of the family today, all of them were exhibition rollers in Cuba. And for those of you that don't know what that means, it means aside from working in a factory, these are not the rollers that roll however they do it in the factory, and you know how variable the quality of the roll on a Cuban cigar can
Yeah, yeah.
be.
They don't draw test.
Exhibition rollers are the people that the Cuban government would send all over the world to demonstrate what the caliber of the rolling art can be.
Right.
And the whole family were exhibition rollers.
Wow.
In fact, Pedro Gomez, who was the founder of the company, was originally a master roller at the H. Upman factory in Cuba.
I know it well.
And then became an exhibition roller. His daughter and his 2 grandsons were also exhibition rollers. And, well, I might as well jump into the story from there.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're
Jump right in.
naked.
I know.
What did I miss?
It just
Every
sounds
time
like
you
a
say
case of
exhibition
exhibitionist.
roller, it sounds like exhibitionist, and I just picture them naked rolling these
rolling.
cigars.
Well,
You
actually,
don't want to really visualize
Well, maybe
it.
his daughter. I don't know.
his daughter was very hot. She's not. She's older now, but she was very hot.
Okay. Keep
Dig your
thinking.
dig your way out of this.
We'll come back to her.
Let's
in
see how many
exhibition.
people we can offend today.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go, Paul. That's what I live for.
Remember, Paul, you drink it first.
Yeah.
My last words.
Yeah.
So
Good.
they came out of Cuba in the early '60s, as a lot of people in the cigar business did. Unlike many of them, the family was named Gomez. It became Gomez Sanchez, but it was the Gomez family. And unlike most people, they moved from Cuba to Mexico. So in the early '60s, they went to San Andres. And aside from producing a small number of cigars in a very small factory there, they bought up land and became tobacco growers. And back in those days, they produced leaf for the Te Amo brand. They were a secondary grower for Te Amo. And we're talking about the days when Te Amo was #1 it was the best-selling cigar in the world. So it was very substantial in its time.
Right.
And they stayed in Mexico for a long time, growing and rolling. And then they moved to Nicaragua and reestablished themselves in Esteli. But they maintained their growing efforts in Mexico. And that comes back to being important for us because we do some things with Mexican tobacco that no one else in the industry does.
Smoke it?
Well, that too.
Admit to using it?
Admit to
maybe?
using
Admit
it,
to
yeah.
using it?
Well, it comes back
Everybody
to that whole exhibition
Everybody
thing.
uses
Yeah.
it.
We dance behind the... No.
Yeah.
What's behind the curtain?
Everybody, or a lot of everybody, knows about San Andres Maduros these
Yes.
days. It's one of the hottest wrappers in the industry.
Amazing.
What we do that other people don't do is we grow seeds in San Andres that no one else is growing. So we have San Andres Habano. We have a hybrid San Andres Connecticut. We have
Really?
San Andres Sumatra, which you'll never see anywhere from anybody. And
If you
we
say Cameroon, I'm going to slap you.
no, we haven't done that. But
San
it's
Andres, Connecticut?
it's a hybrid.
Just sounds weird.
It's a dark Connecticut.
It's not that dark.
Is it a broadleaf seed or
No, it's a more of the shade variety.
Really? Wow. That sounds
Um,
interesting.
So
Is
it's
is it more like an Ecuadorian Connecticut?
no, it's got a very different flavor profile than a typical either Ecuadorian or
Interesting.
Nicaraguan. It's really its own thing. We call it a San Andres Claro, but it's a
Connecticut.
hybrid Connecticut seed.
Right.
So we're able to do some very unusual, interesting things with blending. So there was the Gomez Sanchez family in Esteli with a little factory boutiquing their way to glory. And they were known pretty well by people in Nicaragua in the industry, but they were virtually unheard of up here. The only places that they had any presence was a little bit in Miami. There were some stores that carried their products, and in Texas. And it was because they were doing a couple of rolling events in Texas. This is where that exhibition thing comes in
Right.
again.
Yeah,
They encountered a Texas entrepreneur named Al Micallef. And they got to know him. He got to know them. He's a wealthy entrepreneur and a cigar lover. And he had them create a cigar expressly for him, just for his own consumption and to give to business people that he knew. That relationship worked so well that he decided to just buy the whole company. So
nice.
he bought the existing blends, he bought the factory, he bought lifetime contracts for the living members of the Gomez Sanchez family.
Did he buy the fields?
No, he did not.
Okay.
He has enough of his own fields. He's got a giant cattle ranch in West Texas.
Yeah, but my guess is that tobacco doesn't taste the same in Texas.
Not after the cows.
I don't think he's done
Well
any of that
fertilized.
yet. It might be interesting to see if we could grow
Yeah.
some tobacco in Texas.
That's
Texas
actually been tried
sun-grown.
before.
In Texas?
In Texas.
I
Doesn't
was
work.
not aware of that.
Doesn't work.
101?
It would be fun to try. Grow it on the river walk at San Antonio.
Yeah, right.
There you go.
Yeah, good luck.
It would get well watered at night.
At night it would.
Well watered.
Yeah, I get what Mike's saying.
Yeah. Moving along.
Yeah, that sounds like a little too much information.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he bought the company, but he did more than just buy it. The first thing he did was move them into a bigger factory, and the factory that we moved into was for a while a Davidoff factory in Esteli. While they were building their real Nicaragua factory, they had a substantial but smaller one right next door to A.J. Fernandez's factory in Esteli, and he bought that building from them. Of course, he brought Gomez Sanchez and the current rollers over there and set up a training program so that we could teach people how to roll the way we roll and scale up production, which was, of course, important to him.
It should be important to everybody.
It should be. The second thing he did was make sure that everything, and this won't matter much to consumers, but it matters much to you, was to make sure that everything that we were making was properly predicated and that the FDA, in their infinite wisdom, would never get in the way of anything that we're currently producing. So he took care of all of that.
He used FDA and wisdom in the same sentence.
It's not easy, let me tell you.
Be careful, they have spies everywhere.
Hi, Mom.
That's where I came from.
Yeah, that's the season.
Right into the hand.
So the next thing he did was dramatically cut the prices of the brands that they were making then. That's a whole group of lines that we now call our heritage lines. They're the products that Gomez Sanchez was making before. So these are some of them very old blends, some of them going back to the early 40s. One of the ones that you carry at Cigars goes back to 1963.
Wow.
That's the Migdalia, which was created by Gomez Sanchez's daughter.
They're really well aged.
No, the blend, not the actual
Oh,
product.
okay.
So we have the heritage lines, which are all limited in sizes because we only sell them in the sizes that the Gomez Sanchez family have been making all along. As a group, they tend to be sort of traditionally Cubanesque. They definitely emphasize complexity over strength. They're mostly medium-ish bodied, the heritage lines, and very, very well rolled, extremely well rolled. But they were, as tiny boutique products can be, they were extraordinarily expensive. They were in the $18 to $25 range per cigar.
Maybe what we should do is talk about what Cigars carry, the brand, the facings we carry, or the blends we carry.
Okay,
So we don't run out of time.
let's do that. So we have a couple. This one here,
Do you want me to reach it for you?
no, I'm just pointing at it. You can see it, hopefully. That's called the Leyenda, which means legend. That's actually the oldest blend that we make. That's the cigar that the Gomez Sanchez made when they first came out of Cuba. It's a rich, complex blend. It's the most expensive regular production cigar that we make. It only comes in two sizes. It's a figurado, but here's what's neat about it. It's a hand-formed figurado. No molds are used. It's one of those, and I've
Use
talked
the
about this
newspaper.
before. They roll it up in newspaper
Yeah.
very tight and wet it and let it dry. And
That's
as
cool.
the newspaper dries, it shrinks and forms
right.
up the cigar.
So that's why on the side of the cigar you can read the Esteli Gazette.
You can see what the scores are
Yes,
inside.
the Esteli Gazette. I like that.
You can do the same thing with
So
leather.
that's a fantastic medium-bodied cigar that sneaks towards full in the back half. It's so smooth you don't notice how strong it is until you realize that it kicked your ass. Can I say that?
Yes, you did.
You've said it many times before.
Okay, so why is today different? So that's one that you have here. Another one that you have here is that one over on that side, and that is the Herencia line, and that's the Herencia box pressed Maduro. It's a delicious and distinctive cigar. It's mostly Nicaraguan on the inside. The wrapper, however, is a Pennsylvania broadleaf.
Oh,
Nice.
nice.
A real change up from us, and very flavorful. It's a first grade, Class A.
Good leaf.
It's 5-year aged tobacco in that cigar. It's medium and spicy and rich. The other thing that you have in the cigar stores is from the newer line, and this is a line that we introduced last year. That's the Grande Bold line from which we're smoking
That's what we're
the
smoking,
Double
yeah.
Ajero now. That line comes in 5 different blends. I don't even remember offhand how many you have, but it two?
Yeah.
This one
Oh, wait,
and
we have this one and the Sumatra. Yeah.
Okay, those are the 2 highest rated ones. We have a Sumatra blend, we have this Lajero blend. There are others, but stick with those.
Now, we've been selling these as you watch the show. These have been in most of our stores now for the better part of a month, and so far so good. The acceptance is very good, and matter of fact, we're going to be doing a number of events that Scott's about to tell you about. that
Absolutely.
Paul will be at, I believe,
All of them.
all of them.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and it's going to be, the deals are if you buy 3, Paul will give you 1. If you buy 5 of his cigars, he's going to give you 2. And you'll also be entered to win the humidor that's front and center. That's why we have it out
Very
there.
nice.
And that's worth about, what, 62,000?
A little
It's
bit.
actually about 550.
Yeah.
If you look it up online, that's
Absolutely.
what it sells for.
We used to sell 'em.
Beautiful cigar, beautiful humidor.
So pay attention to your email for the schedule, but I'll give it to you now. This Friday, he's going to be in our Colmar store from 4 to 8. Next Tuesday, April 2nd, he's going to be in Quakertown from 12 to 3, and then King of Prussia from 5 to 8. 2 days later, on the 4th, Oxford Valley from 12 to 3, and Freehold 5 to 8. And then on Friday the 12th, he's going to be in Downingtown from 12 to 3, and then over to Phoenixville from 5 to 8.
Cool.
So we carry these cigars in 10 out of the 14 stores. So majority of them have them, and every store that has this cigar will have an event.
Great. Well, it's time for the wrap-up.
You're gonna be a busy man, Paul.
Mary Ann, you want to start?
Sure. It's a very smooth cigar. The Ligero's coming in a little bit now, so I'm getting the catch in the back of my throat. I had the giant cigar that they gave me.
It should have been here before everybody else.
The burn is perfect, actually. It's been burning perfectly this whole time. It's definitely a re-smoke at a 9.5.
9.5.
9.5.
Wow.
Thank you.
Rob, take it away.
It's very consistent. It hasn't changed much since I started it. Definitely getting all those same sweet notes to it, and through the retrohale, I actually get a cocoa taste a little bit. Although it's not that strong for me at all. I don't think it is.
As
I was
as we
thinking
said,
it would be,
I say it's on
but
the
maybe
high side
because
of medium.
it might be strong, but it's so smooth that it counteracts it. It's almost like a Padron.
When you name a cigar Grande Bold and it's a double Ligero,
Yeah,
you
it's coming
expect
at
to
you.
get
Expect it-
smacked
Yeah.
around.
Right, but I don't,
And
because it's so
our,
smooth.
Our mission with this cigar was to say, how interesting can you make a bunch of Ligero instead of how strong can you make it? We didn't want to curl anybody's hair.
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
yours.
Got it? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No. I also give it a 9.5.
Oh,
Wow,
that's
it's
all
very
right.
good.
Thank you.
The
Right.
retrohale is really smooth also.
It is.
I mean, I just did it, and I'm not feeling the urge to
You're not
sneeze.
even going to sneeze.
No.
so.
No, that sweetness is maintained, and that milk chocolatey flavor, especially on the retrohale. I'll give this a 9.25.
I love this cigar. I agree with everything that's been said here. It is very smooth, and the taste and the complexity has remained throughout. The price is a real rocket ship of ratings for me.
Yeah.
I'm giving this a 9.75.
Whoa,
There you
there you
go.
go.
That's a good
That'll
cigar.
counteract Scott's 9.25.
Yeah, well, what does he know?
Exactly.
Don't forget our Saturday night show.
Holy crap.
9.25 is a horrible rating.
Paul, thanks for coming back.
Yes, I
It
thank
was
you for
my
coming. It's good to
pleasure.
see you.
I'm so glad to be
Yeah,
back.
we'll see you next
I'm
Wednesday. Bye.
Ciao for now, everybody.
Bye-bye.